Welcome to the Lifeline, a production of Simply BJE. The goal of this podcast is to build, inspire, and to empower our listeners through conversations on business, leadership, and mental health. We invite you to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and at www.simplybje.com/the Lifeline. Now, let's tune in for today's episode. Top of the day, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Lifeline. We're your host, life coach and motivational speaker, Bo Powell, social media influencer and owner of the For Real brand, Lindsberg Petway, and yours truly, leadership coach and mental health advocate, Barry J. Elliott. You can visit us at www.simplybje.com/the Lifeline and on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and now on YouTube. Once again, we have lover of God, devoted husband, and proud father of four, and entrepreneur Ralph Walker. He is the host of Focusing on the Soul of the Entrepreneur with Ralph Walker podcast. He empowers entrepreneurs to prioritize faith, healing, and self-awareness on their journey to success. Once again, welcome, Brother Walker. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well. I'm blessed. How are you guys?
We're
Doing
good,
great.
man.
Man, glad to have you back, bro.
Glad to have
Sir.
you. Glad
Glad
to
to be
have you.
back.
So let's dive into this conversation. During a previous episode, we had another guest who, like yourself, is an entrepreneur, I should say, Frederick Bussey, and he said something that an entrepreneur needs what he called mental variance, and that is the ability to handle the stress or the bandwidth to handle the stress of being an entrepreneur. And he said that if you don't maintain that particular balance, if you get to a certain level, you can get to the place where you forget your name. Now, when he said that, we laughed, but I think we could all resonate with that, right? Or that resonated with us. So, talk to us a little bit about the importance of maintaining or tending to your mental health as an entrepreneur, or as you would say, soul care. Talk to us a little bit about that and why that's important for an entrepreneur.
Man, mental health is everything in entrepreneurship. One of the things about entrepreneurship is the fact that it's a huge faith walk. And it's I was literally talking to my wife about this this morning, is the fact that with entrepreneurship and starting a business, it literally starts in your mind first. And your mind is in a place of creativity and trying, and at first it's all excitement. You know, you're all excited, you're motivated, you're doing all the things, and then you physically you push yourself a little bit further along, and now you're ready to move it a little bit further. So now the business is actually here, ready to serve your potential customer. But then as the business progresses, then the real issues start to come out, which will make you almost question whether or not you even want to even get into this space and or continue in the space. And because you're already invested, you're like, well, I gotta keep going. But the thing is that if you don't prioritize your mental health, you'll easily run into burnout. And on top of the burnout, you quickly start making bad decisions. And when you got people that are dependent on you, that's also bad decisions for them as well. So it's so in prioritizing in this space is like your mind is like the very first thing you got to make sure that's in the right space. And whether you do that by exercising, meditation, whatever you do to keep your mind in a good space, that's what you should do, because you have to be that in order to continue to grow this thing. Because each even though you may have some success, each level is is another level of faith, is another level of faith walking.
Yeah.
And you gotta be able to keep that going.
When you talked about how everybody that you take care of is affected by your decisions, Bo and I are movie lovers. So immediately my mind went to the movie The Butterfly Effect. But I was thinking about the mind, and I've been thinking about this for the past couple of days. So all of you are familiar with the term creative. So when you think about creative, there are people who are painters, singers, writers, and things of that nature. But you may not be a creative as an entrepreneur, but as an entrepreneur, you are a creator. So you have to protect your mind, which is your creative space. So, in light of that, I want to ask all three of you this question. Has there ever been a time that you felt like your mental health, your creative space was compromised because of the stresses of entrepreneurship or business? I'll start with Lindsberg because he has the talking anointing tonight. So let's start with him.
I would say yes, and I was saying more than people would care to admit to. And I think as an entrepreneur, your mind is always on, and it's hard to turn it off because my success has been attributed to me thinking, me listening, me doing. And I always say, well, God gave me the download, and that's after I got the download, I put it into motion. But once you get the download, sometimes you always want to question if you do option A, option B, option C. So your mind is always racing. And it's gotten to the point sometimes I have to take 2 gummies of melatonin to try to relax my mind so I can get some rest. I recently started listening to sleep sounds and waves and different things so I can just kind of relax and just say, okay, I'm done with today. Let's get some rest so I can be focused for tomorrow. In addition to that, I believe all three of us, we look to exercise, we look to working out. That's kind of my focus after I start my prayer and meditation in the morning. I'm in the gym, and that helps me recalibrate my mind. Even though it's physical, it still helps my mind. So those are the things that I kind of tend to lean on every day. But yes, I think my mind is always on. And sometimes I could be in a conversation with you and we talking about something, and my mind's thinking about, okay, I need to close on that. And if that, I need to make sure this is done right. I need to make sure that I post this at this time. Now I got to do this content. So as an entrepreneur, your mind is always racing because, as Ralph said, you're responsible for a lot. Uh, Even if it's not a lot of people, you still have a lot of titles or caps that you wear. So yeah, I think mine is always on.
Sure. Talk to us, Bo.
Yeah. My answer to that is going to be yes and no. Um, yes, I felt like my mental health was compromised, but not necessarily because of the business itself. Um, I've always just kind of enjoyed just the risk of being out there doing my own thing. Um, like I said in a previous episode, when I was in corporate, it felt like being like an eagle in a cage. So I've always enjoyed that aspect. The uncertainty didn't really bother me or anything like that. Um, what did challenge me and what I had to get better at was dealing with the distractions that come just with life, whether it be relationships. And, I think any entrepreneur can tell you, focus is everything. If you lose focus, I mean, like Brother Walker was talking about, you got people depending on you, whether it's your family, whether it's your employees, you got to stay focused. You got to be on it at all times. And so one of the things that has challenged me that I've had to learn to get better at is how to manage the vicissitudes of life that could pull me away and from focus and maintaining that focus as an entrepreneur. So that would be, from a mental health standpoint, the other things outside of the business. Because for me, at one point in time, I was just so tunnel vision, which, as an entrepreneur is great, but it could strain other relationships outside it because you are so locked in, you know, and you don't realize how you're neglecting other people and other things sometimes because you always got to be on, your mind's always going. So that has been the challenge in the past and things I'm still working on and growing on as an entrepreneur is learning how to maintain focus and manage all the other things that life requires as an entrepreneur.
That's good. That's good. Talk to us, Ralph.
So entrepreneurship within itself, I'm I, my issue is that I move very, very fast. I don't once I have an idea, I'm gone, right? Which is bad and good, right? The beautiful
Mhm.
part of that is that you have enough belief in yourself that you can just go think you can just go do anything, so you give it a shot, right? But then the bad thing about that is that timing is everything as well. And so there has been time, not necessarily. So business has just caused in this more in the beginning, when I was getting started, was the level of desperation that I didn't really understand how to maintain and how to control, and which caused me to, like, I sold my car when I was first living here in Atlanta, back in 2010. I had a paid off Charger, paid my car off, and then I said, you know what, I'm about to bet on myself. I sold my car and for $6,000, and I put all the money in advertising, and I didn't make a dime back.
Mm.
And that's what drove me, because one of my friends, he had made $100,000 in like 3 months. Right at this time, I'm like 22, 20, yeah, like 22 and 23 years old. And my one of my friends had made $100,000 in 3 months, doing moonwalk rentals. And I'm here getting my business started. I'm like, why haven't I hit my $100,000? And in the beginning, you got all the distractions are comparisons. You know, especially when you're focused, you see little things in your peripheral, like, especially if it has anything to do with what you're trying to do. You're like,
Mhm.
why haven't I? All the everybody else is, why haven't I? And so I became a little desperate, and so I made desperate moves, and it bit me. It was a six. My mentor said, "Oh, well, you got you a $6,000 lesson right there," and it pushed me to meditate, to slow my mind down. The Bible says, you have to renew your mind every day. And how do you renew your mind every day? Because you gotta let yesterday go.
Yeah.
Especially as an entrepreneur, you have to let it go. If you didn't hit your target yesterday, let it go. One thing, when I was coaching my son's basketball team, I always tell them, on to the next play. They go down, miss a layup, on to the next play. I'm not about to sit here and bash you in the middle of this game. On to the next play, get back on defense, try this again the next play. And it's just that very thing. When you meditate and you renew your mind every day, we're on to the next play. At this point, we're on to the next day. And entrepreneurship can be just daunting, and if you don't slow your mind down, uh you'll miss those opportunities when you are doing good, and when you are making the right decisions, because you're so in the zone, man. You're so like, "Ah, I gotta get here, I gotta get here," but
Right.
I did get here. You get what I'm saying? So yeah.
So, Ralph, as you mentor other entrepreneurs, and you just said that your mentor told you you had a $6,000 lesson, and I think sometimes the more expensive the lesson, the greater we learn it. Um, but what are some of the strategies that you can share, or do you share with the people you mentor, and on how to protect their soul or the health of their soul while they're entrepreneuring?
Man, the reason why my podcast is called Focusing on the Soul of Entrepreneurs, because I believe that God works from within then out. While we're searching external results,
Mm-hmm.
are you fulfilling your inward results first? And I think, those things will come as you fix you. And I
Right.
know that we got bills, and we got all these different things. So we gotta kind of do this thing simultaneously. But we got to we if we don't take care of us as a person, our souls, if we don't take care of us we cannot get it the way God wants us to have it. We can get it. And my granddad always says this. He says a lie will get you there, but the truth will keep you there. And that's the same thing when it comes with God. You can reach your goals on your own. You can no God didn't never said you can't do this on your own. It's just an easier way if you do it with him. And so and then on top of that, he's a sustainer of it all. So when I talk to my people about business, let's handle business, but let's figure us out first. Like there's steps within this, and the reason why I came to this is because I've I've literally made more and more money doing less, doing it God's way.
Mm.
I've 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 nurtured my relationships better doing it God's way. And when I say relationships, I'm more so talking about my wife because that's the most important one I have. And I noticed that in the beginning, man, I not intentionally, just because we think this is what we should do as men, is that we should just focus on our business. We gotta bring the bread home. We gotta go work and we gotta work hard and we gotta work. All of that's a lie. It's all a lie. God says work diligently. He didn't say work hard. The Bible says work. He blesses the diligent worker, not the hard worker. And we misconstrue that, and we throw away, and we let me not say that we don't prioritize certain relationships because there is no work-life balance. Let's just get that out of there. There's no such thing. It's called prioritization. Some one of my I don't know if you know this guy or not, but his name is Dan Martell. He said to me, he said, he's a mentor of mine, and he said, show me your calendar and I'll show you what you prioritize. And I and he said, all you have on here is just work stuff.
Right.
Where's your family? Where's your wife? Where's all of these different things that's necessary for you? And I'm saying, well, I do that, but yeah, but it's not prioritized. You don't have a specific time. And it took me back to why I even get up at 5:30 in the morning to pray. And one of the things that God said to me about that was, I honor their sacrifice. But more importantly, it's you maintaining the relationship, you prioritizing the relationship you have with me. And so is when we're sitting with mentors, I mean mentees, is just I'm talking to them about business. Of course, there's a set spot where we start talking about business. But the first thing is, what are you doing as a human being? What books are you reading? Are you prioritizing health? Are you if you have a wife, is she on your calendar? Where you set a time and date every week that you're just with her and nobody else? Do you have time with your kids? Like, are these things important to you? If so, let's let's put it on paper so that nothing can come in between that. The Netflix CEO on Thursdays at 5 o'clock every week, it doesn't matter what meeting is going on, he's out the door at 4:30. He would stop a meeting, he's out the door at 4:30 because he needs to be with his wife. It doesn't matter. And as I talk to more and more entrepreneurs and also read these books, it doesn't say it directly. It's like it's one of those things that's kind of taught and not taught. Uh, but the prioritization of your wife is like one of the top things in every book about a millionaire.
Mhm.
And we miss it so much. I don't know why I'm kind of sticking on this right now, but and I apologize, but
You good, bro?
it's so important that we prioritize our relationships the way they need to be prioritized. And those things help keep your mental in a good place.
So, Ralph,
Yeah,
let me
no.
ask you a question. I just had a thought because you said God works from the inside, and when you sit with your mentees, and a lot of times entrepreneurs do things, how important is it to be doing what you're called to do, or your purpose, or what God has placed you on this earth to do through your entrepreneurship? Or do you just pick a business because, like you said, you compare and you see other people doing and having success with it, but it might not work for you?
It's kind of tough, right? So my first business was not a business that I would say I was called to do, right? But I was working what I was called to do within the business. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I think we have our gifts and then we have our purpose, right?
Right.
And my gift is monetization. Like I can go into any business and figure out why you're not making money, where you can make more money at, that whole nine, right? But my actual purpose is the development of people and more so entrepreneurs and helping them um, identify spaces where we are not allowing God to be in that place of our business. So what I mean by that is I believe that God is just at this time, God is literally asking for a table at the a seat at the table of your decision making. I believe that God is like, dude, I'm the ultimate businessman. Bring me into your business. I believe as entrepreneurs, that's one space we leave him out of. We talk about him when we have success, we say God did it, but the reality is we did it ourselves, and we're just because it's good, we say God bless me. God's like, man, I didn't have nothing to do with that. You never once even asked me a question. And so God had gave me these three questions. And these three questions I always ask all anyone I literally had a conversation with one of my guys 2 nights ago um about his business that he's in. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I believe you're not even I don't believe you're actually talking to God right now. Um have you even asked God about your business? Have you asked God what exactly you should be doing, how you should be doing it, and when you should be doing it? Those are the three spaces we leave empty for God to actually be present within our businesses. It is not to be spooky and mystical or anything like that. It's literally it's simple. Like this isn't rocket science. Like God made you, so don't you go back to the creator who made you and for the things that you're going through? He gave you the vision. So he's responsible for the provision. So your responsibility is to go back and ask, okay, God, you gave me this idea. How should I do it? When should I? When you get that part, now, okay, cool. Now, when should I do it? And so when you do that, God is like, dude, I just want to help you. I don't I you're not. And this came to me because I was struggling with the idea of how did you give I'm struggling with my wife. I'm struggling in my family. And I'm like, she's being down my back because she feel like I'm working too much. And all in my head is I'm doing this for you. Like, you want this house, you want this car, you want to shop at and get all the organic groceries. Organic groceries isn't cheap at this time. Like you want all these things, and God put me to the side, and He said, and I asked God, I said, man, how is it that you giving us this drive and this ambition, but then our families are not happy with us? Like, how is this possible? And He simply said, it's like because you're doing this without me. You haven't asked me anything. You're doing this without me. You're not properly aligning and prioritizing this situation. And you're working without me. And then you're not even asking me about this. I'm a part of all of this. You don't who say yes to me. I gave you an invitation, you said yes. You invited me into your life, and you have yet to prioritize me in all of what you got going on. So theoretically, you're doing this all by yourself. And because you're doing this all by yourself, you don't have enough energy for this. You don't have enough manpower to handle all of this by yourself. And so when he said that to me, dude, I was crushed. I come from a family of really extremely hard workers. All I know is to work. I love to work. I love doing it. But he's like, dude, your hard work is ego. It's pride. When somebody's done something and then and you first thing that come in your mind is, I work hard for this. That's pride. It's pride. It's all pride. And the reason, and God is like, no, if you work the way I'm supposed to work, you wouldn't even feel like you work hard. It's not hard work. It shouldn't even be hard. Because you've asked me for the insight. You've asked me for direction. And when God speaks in the spirit, he's responsible for it to flow inside the physical. In the beginning in Genesis, when he said, let there be light, it just didn't stay in his mind. It physically came. When he talked about the birds and in the celestial bodies, and he said, make this, it came. It wasn't just something it just wasn't something just in the atmosphere. It was physical. So if he can speak the world into existence, then that means that the little thing that you got going on, your little problem, is easily solvable if you just went and got mentored by the biggest mentee in the world. I mean, mentored by the biggest mentor in the world, right? And so we make it complicated because we're just humans and we're grown. You know, when you're a kid, it's not that complicated. But as an adults, we complicate things because we got our own minds now. We can make our own decisions. But it's just like it humbled me. It put me back in my space. It put me back in my into the small space of, like, man, I'm doing this all wrong. If I could just focus on what he wants me to do, I can make better decisions. I can do things and I even got there because of the fact, was reminded again of this a couple years ago when I was running my business, and we're close to doing $1 million, and I had like a couple $100,000 on me at the time, and the next thing the business just starts going. I'm like, what is going on? I'm asking people in the industry, they saying, well, this is just a part of what happens. So I'm like, okay, they giving me advice and saying this is what happens. So I'm like, okay, ooh, we gonna just ride this one on out. I wrote it out till there was nothing else there. Not enough for me, at least. And God was just like, dude, when did you ever come and ask me for what to do in this scenario? And I didn't. I was doing it all on my own. And that cost me that cost me over $150,000. That's my hunt. Now I had a little $6,000 lesson. That was my 6-figure lesson. I would never do that again. Because what could have happened was God could have told me and said, hey, pivot, start putting your money in this place. Hey, this is gonna happen, and here's an idea. Start putting your money into another business right now, and you have no idea why. You just putting your money up. Hey, start doing this. It's because whatever, you gonna get these bright ideas. You know what, babe? I think we should start doing this. And next thing you know, the thing is taking off. That's doing it now, but you're okay over here because this is picking up. And that's what I mean. Just like, can we allow God to be at the table of our decision making so that we don't even miss certain steps? We don't have to learn 6-figure. We don't have to make mistakes like that. You get what I'm saying? We become too smart. We become, or we know the industry. We know how to pivot and all these. We know how to put our money. And guys, with me personally, he's like, look, I want you to teach some people this. And that's when I fell into my purpose. Like this is flowing in my purpose now. And I'm just like, man, I'm willing to teach people this but I gotta make this really like simple. But he's like, everybody believes in most entrepreneurs believe in God. They have to. It's a faith, this is a huge faith walk. It's a huge faith walk. And the ones that want to be a part of it will be a part of it. And I gotta believe that too. That's another part of it too. Like, God, who? No, just talk about it. I'm gonna send the people, just talk. And I'm just like, okay, all right, I'm doing it.
You know something, Ralph? You know, as you've been talking, there's two scriptures that came to mind. One, the blessing of the Lord makes rich, has no sorrow to it. The other one said it's vain to, wake up early and stay up late. Yeah, I think one version says eating the bread of anxious toil with that. And so because God gives his beloved sleep, take care of yourself. And one of the good things about where we are now is more and more people are becoming more aware of the importance of mental health and taking care of yourself. Yet there is still a big portion of people who just kind of don't, they kind of take it lightly and they don't do that. So when it comes to our mental well-being, and people taking that for granted, I mean, what could happen, if an entrepreneur is not really intentional about taking care of their mental health?
I think that I'm gonna fix this. Um, I don't know why this happens, but let's see. I'm sorry. Um, give me that question one more time. I'm sorry. That
I'm
distracted
saying,
me.
so if somebody, because you've been talking about doing it God's way, the blessing of the Lord makes rich, add no sorrow. If you're not taking care of business like God's saying to take care of it, right? If someone is not intentional about taking care of themselves and even their relationships, because relationships are a part of who you are, if someone's not intentional about that, I mean, how could that impact an entrepreneur if he doesn't do that?
So I like to switch words out, right? And one of those words is intentional. I like
Mm,
to switch that to focus.
mm,
Okay. The idea of focus is actually doing. Intention means that you had the idea to do it, but you didn't.
mhm,
Right. And so when you're focused on something, that means you're actually doing it. And so that's that's the take yourself out of intention and go towards focus. Start focusing on your mental health. Start doing what that doing what that takes. God told me this just a couple days ago. He said, start focusing on your money process. I said, okay. He said, you got a process for everything else, but you don't have a real process for your finances. So, because what I do is I do simple stuff like I take money from here, transfer it over here, watch it just stack up over there. But no, and I invest in back in myself when I need to, as far as businesses and all that stuff. But he's like, no, I need a new process for you now. He says, start focusing on a new process. And so it's the same principles. It's if you don't have that space as a focus, it there's no building of it. So it's like when God told me to start focusing more on my family, I started seeing changes within my family. It wasn't, I'm not intentional, I'm focused on them. It's I choose to. I'm glad to do this. Because sometimes intention means that you're in tension. I'm not in tension, I'm in focus. Like my eyes is on what I want it to be. That's where I'm at. Like I'm not I'm never intentional about things. I turn intention into my focus. I'm choosing to look at this camera. I'm choosing to look at you guys. You guys are my focus. And this moment is a focus for me. And so that's the thing like that and that's also goes to like far as like people when it just when I come to learn about people is sometimes we want everybody to do something. I want the people who want to choose to do this. I want the people who wants to choose to do the work like look from within. Go get therapy. Uh, I I I was very focused on having therapy twice a year. One in the beginning of the year, one session in the beginning of the year, and one like in June, July was my therapy session, and it helped out tremendously. I loved it. You know, I'm not a person who needs my hand held a lot, so I'm okay, and I'm pretty honest with myself. What I would think I am, because I'm pretty honest with other people too, probably too honest sometimes. But the 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 level of just it's like Lensberg when you're at the dealership and you got a person in front of you, you're focused on that person in front of you. Why? For one, you choose to be there,
Right.
and you're choosing that customer to handle. You're going through the process of what it's like to um take them to see a car and whatever it is that you may do. You go through that whole regime because it's your focus. The company is being built off of your level of focus with it, not your level of intention. It's your level of focus. So at the end of the day, when I try to just work with people who I know has a level of focus and not just they want to do something but not doing it.
Love that, man, because I often say it like this: people have good intentions, but they don't have good attention. They can't maintain their attention long enough to see that intention come into manifestation, right? Because execution is everything. I love that. How because focus is everything. So I appreciate you breaking it down that way, because I think a lot of people tend to be intentional about something, but really you have to give it the right amount of attention long enough for it to come into manifestation,
You,
man.
you
So
know how somebody
I
would
love
say,
that. I
somebody would
love it.
say, you ask somebody, hey, why don't you do that? It's like, oh man, that was my intent. But focus is actually doing it. You're there.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. It's good stuff.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. So, as a male entrepreneur, one of the things that we tend to focus on is mental health. Do you think it's more challenging as men to focus on mental health than it is as a woman entrepreneur? And I know you're not a woman, but if you mentor some females in your mentee mentorship process, do you find that we have different challenges?
Yes, I do. I like working with women better than guys. I'm gonna tell you, women have a different level of focus, man. Like when they sometimes it could be too much. Like it's the thing about guys is there's things that can easily throw us off, and it's always pertains back to a woman. Everything points back to a woman with us. What I always say because um, I've had a lot of people work for me, and every single time if a guy is doing something and it causes some interruption within my business, I always go back to them and say, "Who is she? What is it?" You know. But with a woman, it's it's never a guy, really. It's not the guy that disrupts her flow. And the reason being is because women have like a different level of loyalty if you when it comes to their work, especially if they like it and they're treated well. Um, so, but as a whole, women entrepreneurs, when it gets into that real grit place, it gets a little choppy in there, right? Sometimes guys can sustain it a little bit a little bit better. We can handle the fire a little bit harder with when it comes to certain things. So our level of focus can turn up a little bit better. And when we're really there, you know, um, you know, the thing about women, they have is put it like this. It's like, how like a young boy, you got a young boy, you got a young girl, right? and the girl is always seems to be a little bit faster, like mentally, like she's a little bit more mature. And then the boy grows up and he becomes strong and faster and have all these different attributes, but she's always still a bit more mature. It's like, and it also just depends on the guy too. Some guys handle it with a little bit worse. It just really depends on the person and where they come from and what they're actually going after. But the thing of what I always say to each and every one of them is, hey, pray. I have this vision that one day that when I get to the place that God desires me to be, that everyone inside of my facility, I'll be able to have a moment for them to go and pray and meditate before they come into work. I want you to be able to tell me what God is saying about your position. And that's the same approach I take with anyone I'm talking to. It's like, man, go and pray about it. I can give you all the ideas and I can give you all the level of direction, but if you don't have the real direction on what's for you, my direction is just going to just fall. It's not going to be the ultimate decision making for you. And so it's just like I want if I could get if I can get everyone to take time to just quiet their mind for a second and just really pray and know who you are and know what you're doing, man, we gonna do some amazing things in this world. And it's and I think people, I just have this strong desire to take God off these four walls of just church and and include him in the business world. Like God's, I just, I know I keep going back to it, but I just really feel like God's desire is to be included in that space. Like it's not an open book about God being in those spaces. And not saying that we're about to be in at the desk talking in tongues and all the crazy. I mean, it's not that. It's just that when someone's dealing with you, they can feel the God's presence with you.
Right,
It's just being an example. It's just the way that you is doing business with godly principles. It's not that we sitting here praying at the table with our customers and all that. It's not about that. It's just about
right.
the way we do business. So a customer can feel.
They can feel it. They can feel they can feel your relationship. I
They
get
can
that a
feel your
lot. I
relationship.
get that a lot. And
Of course
it's
you
funny.
do.
It's funny you said that because there was a request of an email from the general manager and as my position as a team lead, give us a play-by-play of your day. So in that email, I topped it off with devotion and reading the word. And my wife said, "You think you should include that? That's not a part of your job description." And I said, "Well, they asked me for a detailed description. And I put in there that I need to do this so I can focus on giving great customer service to the people that I serve." So I'm the type of person, I don't hide it and I'm not boasting, but I get that a lot from my clients, based upon what I have around me. You're a man of God, or you're a man of faith. Yes, I am. I can tell. And I think that is so important that you said that. And God took me out of one career and placed me in such a dirty pit of car sales
Yeah, yeah.
and to be the light of him. And I like that. I like that you said taking God out of the church and putting him in business. I think that is
Yeah.
necessary.
Could you imagine being with your team and you got to make a decision and you say, let me
Let's
pray
pray.
about it.
Yeah.
Let me pray about it. I need to go pray. I need to go meditate. Man, man. So one of my drivers um did something and um I could have fired him. I just could have fired him.
Now, when you say one of your drivers, what do you mean? What do you
So
have?
on my
Limo?
game truck.
Okay.
And I could have let him go. And I said, God, how do you want me to handle it? He said, this is an opportunity for you to develop your level of coaching around your teammates. This is an opportunity to fire somebody because that's easy. This is your opportunity to actually coach and develop a person to operate in the standard that you have set. And I said, okay. And I did that. He's never done it again. Never done it again. And I'm just saying, like, if we sometimes we can literally just go off of some people just need some help. Some people need some development, some people need some of a little bit of everything. And we don't even recognize that they need it because we haven't are we thinking as business, well, the letter, the policy is this. Well, sometimes they say the letter kill it, but the spirit giveth life. And that's a clear moment of that. It's like, man, sometimes the spirit is bigger than what you did wrong. And sometimes we are placed in that position. The other part of that is as a business owner, knowing how to properly price. Sometimes, and this is the other part about, Christians too, when they get into business, because they've been such in the Christian world, they don't know how to price. They're scared of knowing their value. And that's a big thing I talked to like other Christians about. Like, dude, I'm not scared to charge at all. I will go up on the price quick. But that's also the boldness I have because I understand the value. And so those are all principles of God. God, man, all the most successful people in the Bible were business owners. They were all they were a ton of business owners. So it's like this is a space where he wants to be a part of business. Like, and again, like I said, it's not in the spooky mystical talking in tongues. It's literally just in how we operate. And then your teammates, it's the standard that you set with them to understand that this is who we are. And we're not naming our business Hallelujah Grass Cutting. We got regular business. It's just how we operate. And when we get in that space, our mental health is always going to be in good tip top shape, even when it gets hard, because he's prioritized within our businesses. He's not a secondary thought. He's prioritized. He's the creator. So we got to go to the main creator. We are flowing in who we are when we are creating and we're being creative. I always say I'm not a creator, I'm an innovator. So I take what's already there and I expound on it. And I believe that's what God is. God giving us stuff and he says, hey, go and take this. This is where I think the parable of the talents was. Because he said, I'm giving you this, and I want you to go and multiply that. You go into the market and multiply that. It was only that one who was ashamed of what they were doing, what they had, that they went and hid the talent he bared the talent, and the talent was gold. So he had real value. And so today's time, our talents are our gifts. It's what we're able to do. It's the way that we make money. It's our value. It's us. We are the valuable pieces. Go out into the market and expound and bring me back. Bring me back to me so I can expand you.
Something,
So
Ralph, as you're talking, it came to mind this past weekend. I was at church, and I'm a firm believer of getting out the front four walls too. But the speaker brought this scripture to mind. It's out of Matthew. It says, "What shall we compare this generation to? It's like children sitting in the marketplace calling to their playmates," right? And so the analogy he had two people come on stage, and he had two people playing patty cake here, and he had two people up above making deals. And he was just talking about how many times us in Christendom are just playing while there's deals being made over our head, right? And so as believers, we're supposed to stand up and disrupt and bring Christ into the marketplace. And as you were speaking of that, it just resonates with me. So I appreciate that confirmation with that. And as we kind of bring our podcast to this episode to a close, people really need to get out of the four walls and to develop those gifts and bring that value to the marketplace. And that's one of the things that you do best in, is helping people to cultivate that, not just the business, but their mindset, how to make that thing happen. So before we close out, we want to give our listeners an opportunity to be able to connect with you. So tell everybody how they can connect with you through social media, website, what you do. I know you also have some books and stuff that you can offer. So let everybody know how they can connect with you before we close out.
Okay, everybody. You can visit my website. One is ralphwalker.com. But outside of that, all social platforms, I am Ralph Walker on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can catch me on there and socialize, DM me, whatever questions you may have on there.
All right. This concludes another episode of The Lifeline with your host, BJE, Lynnsburg Petway, and Bo Powell. And don't forget to check us out at www.simplybje.com/The Lifeline and on social media. Look, we're on a mission. We want to bring light and life into your household, so join us and let us hear your feedback, because it's all about bringing life to you on The Lifeline. Y'all take care.
Thank you for listening to today's episode with host, business expert, and life coach Bo Powell, social media influencer and entrepreneur Lynnsburg Petway, and leadership coach and mental health advocate Barry J. Elliott. Join us next week for another impactful conversation on The Lifeline. God bless.